Hey, what up, y'all? What's good? What's good? I know it's a random live, a midday live, but I got a special guest that I'm gonna bring on. We're gonna talk about some things. I'm gonna say good morning. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're at in the world. I don't know where you're at, but today I just want to talk, just briefly, really quick before I bring my guest on, just about the power of connection. And we talked about it briefly last night as we did our Protect Your Peace nightly gratitude practice. And some of y'all were on there. If you weren't on there, make sure you sign up for the text community so you know when I'm going live. Because I usually send the text messages out, especially in the evening times. Hey, what up? What up, y'all? What up, Barry? What up? What up? What up, Mando? What up, Beth? How y'all doing? But I talk about connection is power, and something I've been talking about for years, man. And the power of connection is everything, right? Communication is great, but when you're able to connect, and the thing about it is most of us, we all are connected to something, right? We're connected to something that, gives us life or drains our life. We're connected to things that give us peace or robs our peace. We're connected to things that make us feel alive, things that don't make us feel alive. And I think as human beings, we've all been on both sides of the fence. And, connection provides the energy that you need. And so specifically today, I want to talk about, as I bring my guest on, just about using your voice, using your story in order to create that connection, with the connection that those that you serve. The reason why you guys support me, you guys are on this live right now, is because I connected with you at some point. Maybe it was a video, maybe it was a quote, maybe it was a live event, whatever it may be. Maybe it was a podcast, maybe it was a text message, something along the line connected with you. And so I'm very big on connecting. I'm not just a person. Hold on one second, y'all. I'm not just a person that just wants to talk, just to talk. I'm a person that wants to connect with y'all, as well as I'm a person that loves to connect with those that bring that powerful connection. What up, Sarah? What up, y'all? So let me find my guest. We're going to talk a little bit about today, share some things that he has going on. And he's a treat, man. He's really going to help you find your voice and bring confidence in your voice, because we all have a story. 12 years ago, I didn't think I had a story, but I gave my story to the world, and here we are. So let me see if I can find him. Yeah, today's podcast was dope, man, with Mel Robbins. Make sure y'all check that out. I just actually posted a video with Mel from the podcast, and it's super powerful. I literally just posted it before I got on here, so go look at the page. Like it, love it, check it out. What up, bro?
What's up, man?
I got the man Pete Vargas in the building. What's up, bro? How you doing?
Dude, stoked to be here with you, man. I was on last night listening too, so stoked to be with you today, bro.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you for taking your time and taking time out your day, your busy day, man. You're doing a lot of things. And I just know a lot of people on this live right now, talking about the power of connection, talking about using your story and using your voice. I know one of the things we didn't prepare for this. So I
Yeah.
want to just hit you right from the heart, man, in the heart. But I know a lot of people, at least for myself, when I first started, I felt like that I would never be seen or valued, or I had a story that nobody cared about. What's so special about my story? And I told myself that story for so long. And and I know a lot of people on this live right now, they deal with that. They're like, man, why should I share my story? Why should I share my voice? Why do I even matter? There's millions of people in the world that have followings, millions of people in the world that are better communicators than me. Why does my story matter, and why do I need to tell my story? And I want you to touch on that for a bit if you can, bro.
Yeah, I want to tell you why your story matters and why connection matters. Because without connection, change doesn't happen in somebody else's life. And
Mm.
and Trent talks about connection, but the connection is setting up the change. So you guys wouldn't stay around in Trent's community if you didn't see yourself change, if you didn't see yourself get peace, if you didn't see yourself overcome fear. Like the connection is just the catalyst to the change that's going to occur when somebody cares about their people, which Trent cares about his people so much. And so connection opens up the door for change. And so
Mm.
essentially, your story opens up the door for somebody to change. Let me just tell it like it is. So Trent knows this. I grew up in the inner city of Dallas. My mom and dad got divorced at a young age. My dad, I lived with my dad, extremely abusive dad, and did some things to me that he's not proud of today. And my grandmother, I come from a big Hispanic family. My grandmother, when I was 12, 13 years old, She actually had like somebody spying on us in another state and saw the things that were occurring with my dad. And she came and took me away from my dad one night because of the things he was doing. And so my dad, I want y'all to see the importance of connection and how it leads to change. You see, my dad came back into my life when I was about 13 years old. I was on the junior high football team, not as good as Trent. I was the big old center snapping the ball, but I blocked like a beast. They should have put me at tight end because these hands are gold right here. Just don't underestimate these hands. Ask Cody Hodges. But I see my dad, Trent, and he's back in my life. And he had got dishonorably discharged from the military because of some of the things he was doing. And I'm thinking, wow, this is it. Like, things are about to change. My dad's going to tell me he's sorry. And so over the course of the next decade of my life, we tried church, we tried counseling. His 7 siblings would constantly communicate. Listen, we're always communicating. It's whether it's being received on the other end or not. I'm communicating to my daughter today as I'm trying to get her up for school. And how I choose to communicate to her is going to make a decision if I'm going to connect or not connect. And when I connect, things change. And when I don't connect, things don't change. And so what was happening in that decade is everybody was trying to connect with my dad's head. His 7 siblings, go make things right with your son. Get things right with your son. Tell him you love him. You messed up. Or counselors like, dude, you missed it. Like, when are you going to go and get things right? And everybody was trying to connect with my dad's head. And he wasn't hearing any of it. He wasn't hearing any of it. And then, Trent, you know this, I was 23 years old. I was a youth pastor. I had a goal to bring in the most powerful speakers into my little small West Texas town of 15,000 people. And I bring in all these speakers to speak to my kids, little tiny youth group with 3 kids. And then what I saw, this is important, I saw these speakers I would bring in, and all of them would connect with my kids' hearts. At school, not all of the teachers, because I love the educational system, but a lot of teachers trying to speak to people's minds. A lot of pastors trying to speak to people's minds. And they aren't hearing it because there's a guard that they have up because they're tired of being told what to do or what they're doing wrong or what they need to do. They just want somebody to hit right here. And so I'd bring in speakers that were counterintuitive to that. Larry Brown from the Dallas Cowboys, Rick Rigsby, all of these amazing people. And I saw my youth group grow in a town of 15,000 from 3 people to 800 kids. It was the largest youth group in the world per capita, like a little small West Texas town. What happened? People who had a message that literally connected with the hearts of my kids. They weren't used to that. They were used to being told what they're doing wrong or what they're not doing, what they need to do right or whatever. And finally, people started speaking to their heart. Well, I want to share one final piece to the equation. There was a man that one of my mentors told me, you got to bring him in, Pete. Bob Huffaker, who was a big Nazarene pastor, said, you got to bring in Daryl Scott. And Bob wanted me to bring him in because Bob's grandkids were in my youth group. And Bob had experienced what happened in Ohio with Daryl Scott. Daryl Scott's daughter, Rachel Joy Scott, was the first girl killed at Columbine back in 1999. And she died that day, and she left her family with 6 diaries. And she wrote a paper 1 month before she was killed called My Ethics, My Codes of Life. Let me tell you one of the reasons I love Trent Shelton, and he might not realize this about himself. He has an ethics and a codes of life. He knows what he stands for. It's hard to stand for anything when you don't know what you stand for. Rachel knew what she stood for. Like, little homework assignment, go read that paper. It'll move you to tears what she stood for. You just got to Google it. Rachel Joy Scott, Ethics, Codes of Life. And then allow that to be a catalyst for you today to write your own ethics and your own codes of life, what you stand for. It was a page and a half, but that page and a half was a reflection of who she was. And so fast forward, I listen to my mentor, or rewind, I listen to my mentor. I bring him in, this guy named Daryl Scott, in 2003. I've already brought in dozens of speakers who move my kids' hearts. And now I bring in this man, and I'm trusting my mentor. And this man during the day, Trent, speaks to my kids at Hereford High School. And I see the hardest football player in the world crying on my shoulders as he left the auditorium that day. I had never seen emotion from this kid. His name was Bo Harmon. I'd never seen emotion in 4 years in this kid. Every week he came to my church. He's that hard middle linebacker that busted people's chops. You know him. I mean, you played with that type of guy. No emotion. But I remember the tears right here on my left shoulder, bro, as he put his head down. And he thanked me for the message that I brought into the school, because for the first time in Bo's life, coming from a tough family situation, somebody connected with his heart. And then, so that made me think, if this can get Bo, it's got to be able to get my dad tonight. It's got to be able to get my dad. So I got a little strategic. I went and recruited 2 of my dad's sisters to come back for the parent event that night. And I told them I was going to buy them their favorite restaurant, which was called K-Bob's. It's a little steakhouse in Hereford. I told my dad, Dad, if you come tonight, I want to buy you dinner, and 2 of your sisters are coming. And he was very reluctant, because he was sick and tired of being told what to do in his head. He was sick and tired of it. And I went and told my dad, and he came, and he sat on the back row. And that night, Daryl Scott said, after he shared the same thing that he shared with the kids during the day, he said, parents, I don't know any parents out there who are watching right now. And if you are, I want to know how many kids you have. I have 4, 13, 11, 8, and 2. I can't even imagine losing one of my kids. Like, I can't imagine that. Like, I can't even imagine what he's walked through, or any parent who's lost a kid on here has walked through. Like, my heart goes out to you if you lost a kid. But he said, parents, on April 20th, 1999, I had no idea that was going to be the last day I saw my daughter. He said, you have no idea how many days you have left here on this earth with your kids. And then he said this. He said, tonight, I'm asking you parents to do one of 2 things. Now, guess what? The whole talk was not about what they'd done wrong or what they could have done right. It was about reaching their heart. So now he has the authority to step into the change. Remember, connection with the heart opens up the door for a human's life to be different. He's now got the permission. People's walls are down because he's connected with their heart for 45 minutes. And now he's going to give them a call to action of how they can go change things in their life and make their life better. Like, make sure you're connecting with people who don't just connect with you, but push you to want to change and be better. That's what I love about Trent. That's why I'm a huge advocate of him. Everybody I can talk to about him, I'm like, you got to have him. You got to have him. You got to have him. Because he does both of them, not one of them. And then he said this. Daryl said, some of you parents need to go home tonight and tell your kids how much you love them, and do it in an intentional and purposeful way. Because I realized I didn't do that in the intentional and purposeful way that I would have wanted to done in the few weeks leading up to that. And then he said this, Trent. He said, and some of you parents, right now, you know in your heart that you need to go ask your kids for forgiveness. And it's okay. He said, it's okay. He said, I know it's not easy. And watch this. Instead of saying, you better go forgive them, he said, my son's last memory on April 20th, 1999, Rachel's younger brother, 2 years younger, was them fighting over the radio station on the way to school, just like any brother and sister do. But the difference was he slammed the door that day and told her something really rude as he left that day. And the next time that he would see his sister was in a casket. And for 2 years, nobody knew that story. Nobody knew that story. And Daryl knew something was wrong because he wasn't right. And finally, Craig told Daryl that story. And literally at Rachel's graveside, he asked for forgiveness, and he received it, and he became unleashed and no longer captive in his own jail cell. And he said, parents, tonight, some of you need to go ask your kids for forgiveness for something that you've done. Because yes, it will unlock them, but it will also unlock you. And literally, Trent, that night, my dad went home and he wrote me a letter. He didn't come drop it off my house, which was a minute away from his house. He went to the post office like 5 minutes away, and he wrote it. And he said, I'm sorry for the father I've been. Here my son is having an impact on hundreds of kids' lives, and I can't have an impact on my only son's life. I'm asking you for a second chance to do things right. And he told me for the first time at 23 years old, 19 years ago, that he loved me. What was the difference? Connection. connecting to the heart, and then stepping into the change. Too many times we try to go tell people to change before we've ever connected. And sometimes we just connect and don't push people to change. Like, connection opens up the door and gives you the permission to have people change. And so, bro, since that day, you know this, that is why I do what I do. For 19 years, I'm like, how do we get more messengers like him? We took him from a little mom and pops organization to the largest program in school systems, sharing his message because of the impact that he had on me. But not just him. I'm so committed to making sure that more people like you and like Daryl Scott can get those messages out on a bigger scale. So you ask the question, why? Because your story and your life's experiences are going to be the catalyst to help other people see change in their life that they so desperately need today. So if you don't, you're actually being selfish, because your story, just like Trent's story, has changed millions of people's lives. Don't think you have to change millions. You might be called to change hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds, dozens. But your story is the catalyst to helping other people change. Your story was for you and is for you, but it's also for others to be able to do things. So Trent, that's my perspective. That's the longest I'll talk, bro, but that's for me.
Man. Now that's beautiful, brother. Like, I just love when I can just sit back and listen, and everybody in these comments are enjoying it, man. And you're definitely right about, having both of those, right? Because a lot of people talk change, but they can't connect. It reminds me, I remember I was growing up and just being in the church, and I would have pastors that I wouldn't connect with. They would talk about change, and their change was like wrapped around this perfection. There was no vulnerability, no transparency. And I was like, man, I could never, ever be like that. So I'm like, I might as well just keep living my life. But then when I got around another pastor, and this pastor happened to be my dad is one that's totally like this, but even outside of my father, where he opened up his heart to transparency, And he showed me that, man, I have these struggles too. I go through these things too. And immediately that connected with me, because I realized, I don't have to be a perfect human being to be loved by God. I don't have to be a perfect human being to make a change in this world. And so he opened up my heart, and then he gave me the tools that I needed to go on along my journey based upon his story. And one of the things that I always say, bro, is like, I always tell myself this, and it's beautiful. Like, even right now in this moment, I have my moments where I look back and say, man, there was a greater purpose than the pain I was currently experiencing. And I always remember this when I go through my hard moments. Even this year, I always tell myself, my present pain or even my past pain is going to be future strength for someone else.
Yes.
Because I'm going to show people how I got through it. I'm going to show people what I did. And if they ever go through it, hopefully we can prevent it. But if they ever go through it, they're going to have the tools based upon my experiences. Because I always say, experience is the best teacher. Yeah and no. Somebody else's experience is the best teacher. I don't want to have to go through it if I don't. And so, man, I'm grateful for you, bro, for sharing that. And I want you, while I have you, man, you have something incredible going on right now that I'm a part of. And I want you to share it. And even because my next question for you was going to be like, why do you fight for what you fight for? But you answered it. So if you want to even go on that even more, and then share, what you have going on currently right now, man.
I hope you guys just took a note of that, because I just took a note of that. Like, the greatest teacher is your own experience. Actually, you want to know how to shortcut it? The greatest experience is learning from somebody else's experience. That's wisdom. So wisdom is actually being in action and learning from life's experiences. But you don't have to learn from your own. You can learn from others who've already walked that road and been down that path, took the 17-mile route of that, the 3-year journey of that, and allow you to take the shortened journey of that, so you don't have all of the same heartaches and the same pains and the same stumblings. So I love what Trent just said. I'm going to borrow that for 3 times, give him credit, and then I'm going to claim it as my own. That's how you do it, right? No, I'm just messing. But that's golden for me to hear today, because I'm trying to understand wisdom, and wisdom is actually gained out of life experience. But the aha that Trent just gave to me is, it doesn't have to be my life experience. It can be somebody else's. And so, yeah, Trent, that day, what happened, real talk, what happened is, I'm like, when I got that letter, my wife and I were in this little tiny home because we weren't making a lot of money. We were youth pastors, and I'm reading that letter and we're both crying. I actually have the letter. I still have that letter that my dad sent me. And today, by the way, my relationship with my dad is unbelievable. He heard me speak a couple of years ago in front of a crowd of 30,000 people, and I got to talk about the father he is today and the grandfather he is today. I went back to when I was 29, I had no kids, and I got a call from my dad, and he got pregnant with my stepmom at 49. And so he had another kid, my little brother, before I even had my first kid. And when I went and met my little brother for the first time, my dad, I could see something was different. Something was different. He didn't need one of his siblings to tell him what to do. He just knew what to do. And I was like, this is going to be different. And I told my wife that. And as we drove home to Colorado that weekend, after meeting my little brother, my dad walked me to the driver's side and he said, I want you to know you will always be my little boy. And remember what he said in the letter. But he said, I feel like JT is my second chance to get to do things right. And today, my dad is the most amazing father and the most amazing grandfather to my kids. And people are like, does that bum you up that you didn't get it? It's like, no, it doesn't bum me out. It makes me happy that my kids do get it. They know Grandpa Pete in a way that I didn't know Dad Pete. And JT is got a dad who is present and who loves him. And why? Because one person was bold enough to share their message on the stage. Nothing else worked, Trent. Like, I'm not saying counseling doesn't work and church doesn't work and having a conversation with your brothers and sisters doesn't work. I'm not like discrediting that. I'm discrediting the methodology of how to do that. Like, don't go at somebody trying to speak to their minds, connect with their hearts first and watch what happens. But that day when I got that letter, and I honored my dad, a couple of decades later. He was in the audience and just in tears as I honored him. But that day when I got that letter, I said, what happened? And I started going through my mind what happened. And I realized one person with a story that wants to make a difference in our world. And so I solicited that guy's cell phone number. I know it by heart, 303-910. I can tell you the last four numbers. And I said, Daryl, I know you don't know me. And I'm saying this to your crowd today. I know you don't know me, but hopefully me being connected with this incredible man here gives some credibility. But I said, Daryl, you don't know me, but this is what you did for my pops. This is what he just wrote me. And I got to help you get this message out to the world on a bigger scale. And Daryl said this. He said, I've been looking for you and I haven't found you. I flew to Dallas the next day to meet with him. And I got to understand that he knew he had something for the world, but he just didn't know how to get it out there on the bigger scale. And there was a gift that God has given to me in me to see the greatness in other people. It is one of my spiritual gifts and God-given natural gifts. I can see things in other people that they can't see themselves. It's not anything to do with my own strength. That's what God has given to me. And I saw the possibility of what existed with him. And he was about to shut the doors. Like Prince EA, our buddy Prince EA says, the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. It's stories untold, inventions not had, ideas not launched, because we get afraid and we're scared. And Daryl was at that place. He was about to shut the doors. He went from $150,000 to $50,000 in annual revenues, had to lay people off, didn't know how he was going to get the message out there. And Trent, I just saw it. And I saw it. And I executed it, and we helped him become an organization doing $7 million a year in annual revenues, seeing a teen suicide prevented every day, a school shooting prevented every single month. And literally, I got to be in the practice for a decade of what it takes to build a platform and get your message out to the world on a greater scale. It started with him, and I'm grateful to say, Trent, that this year we will cross over 100,000 people who we have been able to help build their message and build their platform. And next week, we're doing a free event. You're a part of it. Jesse Itzler, Steve Weatherford, Sarah Blakely, just found out Bethany Hamilton. I'm hoping to finalize today with Tim Tebow, Damon John. I mean, the list is incredible. And it's a list of people that I believe they're amazing at some piece of building their platform. And when you take the collective genius of these 40 people over the course of the week, I believe that they're going to give the toolbox, along with me sharing some too, the toolbox that will help people build their platform and get their message out to the world on a greater scale. And so next week we're kicking that off, and it's going to be every day from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the cool thing that I'm proud of, Trent, is while we're doing this and people can join it for free, all of the profits, people can buy the recordings and can be backstage with the speakers every day virtually. All of the profits are going back to charities. And last year we did this and we gave $750,000 away to charities that built the biggest minority educational program in the US for small business owners free of charge. We launched 150 female entrepreneur businesses with Sarah Blakely's Red Backpack Fund. Almost half of them were minority business owners. We helped feed so many people through Tony Robbins charity. We helped single moms through Grant Cardone's foundation. We gave $750,000 away. So while we were helping build platforms that are making a difference in the world, we're also teaching people how to build their platforms so that they can go make a difference in the world. So it's like the win-win combination. And I think if people go to, I think it's jointrentshelton.com. Trent has given all of the profits away to charity too. He's going to be a speaker. And Trent, my goal and my intention of the week is to give people the toolbox of what it takes to build their platform and really change their world.
Oh, man. Man, I just thank you for your heart, man, and sharing your heart and being a part of something amazing. This question came across the chat, man. This will be my last question. I'll let you go, brother.
Yeah.
Make sure, guys, yes, it'll be virtually. I'm about to pin it at the bottom, you guys, so you can find it. So I get this question a lot, and I saw this question pop up in the chat, and I think it's a great question to ask. And especially with your father, right? You dealing with a situation with your father and going through things and sharing your story. There's so many people that want to share their story, but in sharing their story, it might bring some trauma or some hard situations to those people that are part of their story. What's your advice with that? With somebody that, it's an intricate part of their story, but they don't want to throw their mom or their dad or their significant other, brother or sister or friend, under the bus. What would you say to that?
Yeah. So this is an incredible question, because after I shared my story in 2019 and my dad had heard it for the first time, yes, I honored him at the back end of the father of who he was, but I also told the kind of war story of who he was before that. And it actually opened up dialogue and conversation with us where he felt like, man, I don't want to be remembered as that father. And so it actually opened up some of the most healthy dialogue that, although he had apologized, we had never gone deep in the conversation before around this. And so it was so beautiful that we got to go deep. But let me tell you something. Let me rewind to 5 years previous to that when I first started sharing the story. So there's a couple of things I would say to people. If you are not healed from a story, don't share it. Because at least don't share it with people who don't know you. Like, share it with your inner circle and have your inner circle help you get healed from it. But it's not intended to be shared with people that don't know you, because what happens, and I see this all of the time, Trent, is you're actually bleeding out in front of people. Not physically, but it's an emotional bleed out. And you can tell when somebody shares a story from a place of not being healed versus sharing a story from a place of power. Like, listen, my story still shakes me up, but I'm healed from it and I can share it from a place of power. So my first advice is make sure that you're never sharing it when you haven't been healed from it. That's first thing. Second thing, I had been healed from my dad's story. I'd went through some forgiveness. I had went through some inner work. And so before I launched my website to the world that told my dad and I's story in the video, I called my dad and I said, Dad, I feel like it's time for me to really take my message out to the world, and I want to make sure and let you see this. And he went and watched it. My stepmom called, this is back in 2015. My stepmom called me back and said, your dad's in tears and he's so proud of you. And so I was honoring to my father to let him know what I was about to do. Now, that could go two directions. It could be like, you got their blessing. Okay, I got it. Or you might not get their blessing. And in that case, you have to do what aligns for you. That is my conviction. Like what I told my dad on the back end, what I've told my mom, because I share parts of my mom's story with in my journey. I was like, Mom, that's my story. This is my story. This is who I am. This story made me who I am today. And now I get the opportunity to share it with other people to help them overcome and get through their obstacles and their hurdles a lot faster than I was able to. And so you have to do what aligns with you. Like you have to do what aligns with you, whether you get the blessing or not. Then there's a third category. And it's like, I'm not going to go ask them for their blessing because there hasn't been the heal. Like they haven't asked for forgiveness. They never said they were sorry. And in those cases, I haven't been in those shoes, guys. But what I can tell you is you have to do what aligns for you. You have to do, like, don't be out of alignment. If it doesn't align for you to share it, don't share it. And if it does align for you to share it, share it. Remember, you're comprised of thousands of stories, thousands of experiences, thousands of memories. And you don't have to just share that one. You have so many. There's a metric that I wish people tracked. People track, how much sales do I have? How much leads do I have? How many followers do I have? How much content did I produce? I wish people would start tracking how many times do I share one of my stories. Because the more you share your story, the more connection you're going to have in the world. The more you share your stories, the more connection you're going to have in this world. And so one of the practices that I do is I actually have a story journal. I have a story journal. Like I've made my own story journal. And so whenever I have a story, like the time Trent and I had lunch and had a conversation in Scottsdale, Arizona, or the time that Trent and we went through the why activity, the 7 layers deep in my garage, in my studio. Like I wrote that story of him, me, and Stormy down. And then I actually write, like, what's the teachable moment in this? This is the simple thing of a story. Write the story. What's the teachable moment in the present moment for you? And then jog your memory a little bit with some notes, because as you get older, you might not remember all of these stories. It's 3 columns: the story, the teachable moment, and just a memory jogger of notes. And I do that as a consistent practice with every story that of my life experience that I can. And now I have this documentation. So when I go into the teachable moments, I can run like, where's something on leadership, or where's something on purpose, or where's something on family, or where's something on my kids. And I have this documentation of all of these stories. All of you can do that. Like, you don't need my story journal. I'm not trying to like hold something back from you. Get a column, and it's 3 columns, and just document your stories and share your stories. So if you don't feel aligned to share one, man, you got thousands others. So hopefully that helps, Trent.
Ah, man, that more than helped, man. Y'all send some love and Pete in the comments, man. Drop some fire emojis if you just got that fire. Y'all want Pete on the Straight Up podcast, it's gonna happen, bro. But drop the fire in there, man, because you shared so much, and that's a big question. Even, I saw the responses when that question was asked, man, and so many people are in that place of, they feel like it's a prison, right? They're torn between the two. But like you said, I love that. If it doesn't align with your spirit, doesn't align with you, then don't share it, because you have thousands of other stories that you can share, and you might not be healed from it, man. There's times in my journey, I can definitely say, when I first started out, I was sharing from a place of hurt, not a place of being healed, and it wasn't good. So everything you said was 1,000%, bro. I thank you for your time. I appreciate you. Make sure y'all go to that link as you see how brilliant Pete is. It's just a glimpse of his brilliance. I get to him as a friend, so we get to do life together, man. So I appreciate you, and thank you for giving to this audience and what you do, man, for this world.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, Trent. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna, because I've seen a couple of comments. I'll pull out like my template, and I've not done this on any lives, and I haven't even talked about my story journal in months, maybe a year. But what I'm gonna do, Trent, is anybody that is part of jointrentshelton.com, I'm gonna let you know everybody from your community, so you know who's participating in it, and we'll get them that story journal template. It's nothing fancy, so don't think it's fancy. But the problem is we try to make things perfect, because the world's telling us to make it perfect. And then we never take action because it never gets to the perfection. So you're going to look at my story journal and be like, that's simple. Yeah, the more simple things we do, the more we can walk in action and not get paralyzed. And the world tries to tell us to be perfect. Like, I'm like, no, these are the 3 columns I need. That's all I need. And I'm good to go. So y'all might laugh at it, and that's fine, but I'll make sure that everybody that goes to jointrentshelton.com and is part of this, every one of you, I'll make sure we get you the story journal template that I use without my stories in it, because then you would know all my stories. So.
Man, thank you, man. Thank you for being giving that gift, man. And like you said, I'm glad that you said that about perfection, man. We live in this perfection world, and the simplest things are oftentimes the most powerful things. So thank you for sharing that, brother. And yeah, man, y'all make sure y'all follow Pete, support Pete. And bro, I'll be talking to you soon. I'll be seeing you soon. I'll be seeing you next week.
Yeah, I'll see you next week, man. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See you, bro.